Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be talking about the Carolina Hurricanes and their slow start to the season. So before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the Hurricanes have been one of the more successful teams in the NHL over the past 5 years. Been able to make it to the playoffs every season, been able to go on 2 trips to the Eastern Conference Final, including one last year, and with another good year in the books from last season and then a busy offseason, a lot of people talked about, will this be the team that could finally kick in the door and make it to the Stanley Cup Final and maybe even win it for the first time since 2006, as the Canes have been there but not really been able to do it? Unfortunately, no at this point. And I'm not saying that it isn't going to be able to happen, but I am saying that at the moment, the Carolina Hurricanes, through 27 games played, are 14-12-1 and are not in a playoff spot, which is really shocking, and they're actually on pace for their worst season since the 2017-18 season in terms of points over a full 82-game season. So things obviously are kind of unique there. So what's been going wrong for this Canes side? And I say wrong because an 88-point season would be a good year for a lot of teams that have really been struggling, but for the Canes, the expectations are higher. But for them at the moment, it really does seem to be goaltending, as they have the worst save percentage in the entire NHL at .867. You could probably point to the fact that Freddie Anderson is dealing with blood clots. He's only played in 6 games. You could point to the fact that Antti Raanta, I do believe, had a off-season surgery. And, he clearly hasn't been playing too well. And then Peter Kochetkov is young, and he has been struggling, maybe from the inexperience, but at the same time, I'd argue he's had, playoff games that he's been able to play in, and has got some NHL action over the past 3 seasons. So there is kind of a middle ground here where you could kind of argue one way or the other. But the point remains, does there seem to be a reason? And is that maybe because of the guys in front of them? And I'm going to be honest, at 5-on-5, the answer is no. They have the lowest shots against per 60 and the lowest scoring chances against per 60 in the entire NHL. On top of that, they have the 4th lowest high danger chances against per 60 and the 2nd lowest medium danger chances against per 60. So what about the PK? Is the problem when they have guys in the box? And again, the answer kind of seems to be leaning towards no. The guys in front of them on the PK unit aren't really doing them any disservice. They have the lowest shots against per 60, they have the lowest scoring chances against per 60, and the 4th lowest high danger chances against per 60. So you could look at that and say, well, okay, maybe they are doing a good job, but maybe they're on the PK a lot, and the goalies are tired. Again, not really the case, as the Canes are better than about 2/3 of the teams in the league in terms of not being out there as long. The Canes, again, in this situation for their goalies, have the worst save percentage on the PK, so worst overall save percentage and the worst overall PK percentage. And I think the thing that's really discouraging here is that the Hurricanes as a group have been really good at preventing zone entries. They are towards the top of the NHL in terms of offensive zone time, and in terms of defensive zone time, they are a team that's kind of towards the bottom, but that's a good thing. More time in the offensive zone to, be in an offensive opportunity to score, less time in your defensive zone where you are less likely to have goals scored against you by staying out of your zone. They literally have the 4th best expected goals for percentage in the entire league, but sit 19th in actual goals for percentage. It is very discouraging, and for this Canes side, you would say, what is going to have to be changed? And I don't really want to point the finger at anybody, but I think their goalie coach, Paul Schoenfelder, I think is how you say his name, he is probably going to have to make sure his guys are prepared. Because what do you realistically do as a team when you say, okay, well, we are limiting chances, we are getting a lot of chances in our favor, we are dominating time in terms of offensive zone time, we are limiting defensive zone time, and we are just making their lives relatively easy by not taking a lot of penalties, preventing zone entries, all that stuff. What do you do? And I don't really know if there is a super easy answer. I would say that maybe focus in more on a guy like a Kochetkov that's younger and see if there's any bad habits. But on top of that, make sure that everybody's feeling well and healthy. The answer is probably going to be a lot more complex than this, but it is just one of those deals where when you're playing well collectively as a group and once part of the team is kind of letting you down, it can be frustrating. And again, it kind of seems to be one of those deals where this is a team that is being let down by one primary area. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, this team probably could be a lot better in some certain areas. They are not a team that's been able to score as much as they'd like despite dominating chances and shots. They are not even in the top 10 for goals for per 60. They are a team that also has had some instances where things haven't gone their way. Svechnikov has been in and out of the lineup with injury this year. Michael Bunting, a guy that they really brought in that they were excited for. He has 6 goals on the year, and there's some other situations where you're saying maybe, just maybe, things could get improved. But yeah, in terms of how they could help out their goalies a lot more, there's not too much more that they could do out there in a team sense. I'd say the only other thing is take more slot shots, because while they are getting a lot of offensive zone time, it seems like they're not getting as many slot shots as they'd like, so the odds of getting a goal are less. And I do know that they are towards the bottom of the league in shots percentage, or shooting percentage I should say. And the good news is, I do think while the start of the year has kind of been frustrating for them, they are just barely outside of a playoff spot, and the goalies probably will have time to turn things around. You'd have to imagine if your team is really helping you out and doing well in so many categories and making your life relatively easy, eventually you'll probably get into a groove and you might get a win streak going for your team. Next thing you know, you're not outside of a playoff spot, you are, in a division hunt. I don't know if that's going to be the case with a team like the Rangers being up there this year and having a good start compared to teams like the Devils and the Hurricanes, but for a playoff spot, you're really in a situation where you could use a win streak, and you probably are going to get that. I want to be an optimist. But at the same time, too, I would not be so optimistic that I'd say, well, if these guys continue to struggle, we're going to do absolutely nothing about this, because if you go into a playoff matchup with another team, say they get outshot, they get outchanced, doesn't really matter for some of these teams because they are so good. They have guys that have just a great burst of speed, or they have a great shot, or they just play well on the power play, and you take a penalty that, is just a bad penalty. They can and will make you pay, so that's not really something that the Canes want to have to look at and say, well, this team made it out of the round and we didn't, and we are once again not where we want to be in terms of lifting the Stanley Cup. So I would say go out there, see if there's any trades you could possibly do. I don't really know if Freddie's going to be able to come back. I haven't heard reports about him coming back just yet. See maybe if there's any guys on the market. I don't really think there is. But again, I would give them just a little bit more time to see if they could figure things out, because again, Kochetkov is probably part of their future in net. And then Ronta, he's been part of this success. And it is unfortunate, obviously, with the fact that they have 3 guys on their roster that have been goalies for them the past few years that have been really successful. I know playoffs has been a big talking point about whether any of these guys could really get them on that deep run to get them the cup. But I will say, over the past few years, having these 3 goalies would give them better depth than most teams in the NHL. So I am hoping that they get things turned around. Will this team be a playoff team? In my opinion, I'm going to say yes. I have been a guy that's really hyped up the Hurricanes for a while now. I am not going to back away from them now that they're having bad goaltending, especially when you're looking at the fact that they are first in a bunch of categories. They are a team that is probably going to be able to get on a streak of some kind, and they are hopefully going to be able to do that with their goalies playing better. So we will see. Just kind of wanted to talk about the underwhelming start of the year for the Hurricanes and what I thought of it. Do I think that Rod's going to get fired or anything like that? No, I don't. I think he's safe even if they miss the playoffs, but with him being just outside, I would just think it'd be so wild if they didn't make it. So what are your thoughts on this team? What do you think they need to be able to do to improve? How could they help their goalies out? Whatever you want to say, leave it down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.